Hello friends and welcome to my channel. I'm Amber and today we are going to be talking about how we acquired a sweet fluffy boy cat named Floof. Okay, so when did we actually officially adopt Floof? Well, that was going to be last year. It's 2025 right now. When you're watching this, who knows, it might be 2, 3, 5 years from now. But we adopted Floof officially 2024, April 17th. We are going to consider this time his official adoption because April 17th is when we officially took him to the vet, got all of his checkups, got him chipped and everything. And that's how we're kind of going to establish an adoption date. Okay, so Floof's backstory. We'll get into it. It's a little sad, but not quite that sad. So in 2023, we had a downstairs neighbor, and she would leave him outside and her other cats, but usually it was just Floof and one other cat. I'm assuming that all of them got along, so that's why she would let them outside. So over time, we would eventually let him inside of our apartment because when we were outside, we would be petting him, kind of talking to him because he was a very social cat. And over time, we noticed that he was, very, very polite. And we let him inside a few times and he would come in and sniff around. He'd lay down on the floor in little spots. And we would just let him outside whenever he wanted. And he didn't really stay in too long because we didn't want her to worry too much about him being gone. So over time, we noticed that he was terribly matted on his underside. And he still let us pet him, but he was just extremely matted. And we noticed a lot of dirt just because he had been, sitting in the grass, laying in dirt piles, just being a good old rough and tumble boy. We would also give him treats when he came in, so I think we kind of started creating a bond over time by, letting him in, petting him, giving him the attention that he was kind of wanting. And I'm not quite sure if the neighbor was giving him as much attention or what she was doing, but she was definitely older, so I feel like there was a tiny bit of neglect just because she had other cats, she was older, and maybe she didn't have the time or the energy to really be taking care of this one cat who needed all this attention and grooming and upkeep. So around December, we had decided to leave a note on this neighbor's door. We had offered to take Floof into a groomer's, but unfortunately, when we had contacted the groomers, they needed proof of updated vaccinations and rabies shots. And because it's not our cat, we didn't want to take him to the vet, so we left her a note offering her this grooming service that we were going to provide. We would even offer to take him in our own vehicle if she would be okay with it, but we just needed updated vaccines and rabies shots from her vet. She did eventually respond. We talked face to face and said that the gesture was extremely kind and she really appreciated it because she herself had issues grooming him because she could only brush him for so long to get the mats out herself before he became finicky and started squirming away. We decided to let her know, hey, get back to us whenever you get those vaccine updates, and we would be glad to take him in and get him groomed just for you as a sweet gesture. Unfortunately, we never got a response. She never came back to us and said, hey, I got his vaccines updated. Here is the paperwork. So we never really got the opportunity to get him groomed through her. As a side note, she did also kind of explain to us where she came from. She apparently had moved here from Louisiana and was explaining that she would let him outside most of the time when she had a house. So they had more of a yard for him to frolic and explore. So he was used to being outside on his own. She also explained how he got the name. So his original name is Fluffy, but because he's just kind of this goofy, sweet guy, we had been calling him Floof. So after we had actually left the note for this neighbor and she didn't really get back to us about the whole issue of getting him groomed and getting those vaccinations updated, it started to snow and it started to get very cold outside, and she would still leave him outside. So it kind of got to the point where it was too cold for a cat to be outside. And mind you, this guy is an inside-outside cat, so he's not 100% adapted to being outside in the cold 24/7 like some of the other cats outside. So one day we decided to leave him in our apartment for 24 hours because she still hadn't let him back inside. And that was kind of a bit of a disaster on our part, but not too bad. I had fallen asleep and my husband was gaming, so we really weren't 100% paying attention to the cat. And we didn't have a litter box at the time. And unfortunately, with such regret in his eyes, he had pooped on the couch. But don't worry, the couch is clean, the couch is fine, everything was good. We did leave him outside for a little bit just in case he did need to go and do what he needed to do outside in a more comfortable environment rather than the couch. So fast forward to about March or May, we noticed that she was in the process of moving out, and we had asked some other neighbors, hey, what's going on? They said, sounds like she's moving back to Louisiana. Understandable. When I was talking to one of the other neighbors, she had mentioned that this neighbor was very focused on taking this one cat, Floof, back with her. She had 3 cats. I believe she had a black cat, and she had a cat that was similar to Floof, I'm assuming was in the same litter, and then, of course, Floof. Now, the black cat, whenever she was in the middle of trying to move out, stayed in the apartment, would not come out. Her other cat, however, she did take, but Floof hung around. We do have a Ring camera, so I was kind of watching outside at the time because people are coming and going, and I want to be aware of what's going on outside of our apartment because we live around a bunch of different types of people. And so I saw her daughter had gone on the Ring camera in front of our apartment because Floof was hanging out in front of our apartment, and she tried to capture him, and to no avail. She could not get him in the carrier, so he ended up just kind of hanging out for a little bit. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this whole backstory with Floof and how we got him and all about him. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much, but if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely leave them. I will get to them as I can, and hopefully you guys enjoy more videos.